Good morning, good afternoon, good day. Thank you for coming today. We are welcoming lots of people not only in this room but beyond this room, and we thank you all for joining us as well. And I just want to say a word of gratitude for, I know the family is excited to have you all here to celebrate Trudy Chastain's life and her legacy. And we're grateful to have the opportunity to celebrate this service here at Oakland Center for Spiritual Living and express gratitude to Reverend Sunshine Michelle. I know she was here somewhere a minute ago. And Reverend Jerry's here with us too. Thank you so much. So to start this service today, I'd like to just take a moment and anchor us in prayer. So if you would join me in that. So I'm truly grateful in this moment for all that is, knowing that the perfection of spirit is the only thing that's happening here and everywhere, and that this perfection of spirit is expressed in, as, and through each one. And so as we come together, we know that right here and right now, the love of God is present, and that Trudy's present with us, and that there is only the opportunity today to know the truth, and the truth is that life is wonderful and life continues. So we give thanks for that. We bless each one. We know that this day is perfect, and we simply allow it to be, and so it is. I'm inviting Robin to come forward.
Good morning, everyone. So John asked me to say something about Trudy, and what kept coming to me was that there was a reading that needed to be read. And I pushed him until he pulled up something, and he's like, okay, she likes Psalms. And of course, it was the perfect reading that describes Trudy to a T. So allow me to read from 1 Corinthians. Love is patient, love is kind, does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always preserves. Love never fails. So for me, this reading exemplifies Trudy. It's as if it was written for her specifically, because I think this is what she lived by, the laws of love. Was she always patient? You might hear stories today that tell otherwise. There were times when her family truly tested her patience. And I guarantee you that in those times, at the end of them, you always felt the love. One of my favorite things to watch was when John or Charles told a story that Trudy didn't remember exactly that way. And you could see her feistiness go into battle. But John could always make her laugh like no other. At the end, she'd always end up in hysterics and laughing. And even if she was mad, it didn't matter. She would laugh and smile until her sides hurt. And so whatever story John or Chuck was sharing, there's always so much love and pride that would beam from her eyes. Trudy loved her family, and we all were family. There was that balance of love and kindness that is truly needed in the world today. It's truly what the world is yearning for. So there's so many stories that I could share about Trudy, but at the end of the day, they're all about love and kindness and patience. I will testify that having 2 boys is definitely what patience is all about. So Trudy embodied curiosity and honesty and grace. And even though I miss her and I know it's a loss not to have her in this worldly realm, I'm pretty sure that they have her up in heaven teaching a master class on kindness and love, because she was a master. Trudy was fun. She loved to dance. She loved to have a good time. She may have been the original party girl. I know that she would want everyone to laugh today and to enjoy their time and to remember her with that true essence and quality of who she was. And to take away maybe a quality of hers that you can share in the world. Trudy made the world a better place. And we can keep all of that alive by embodying her spirit and being that love. So I invite you to do that today. Thank you.
That's Robin Rice Olmstead, and she is my wife. I'm Gil, and we've had the pleasure of knowing the family for some time. And I'm just realizing that one of the incredibly fantastic things for me personally with knowing Trudy and being with the family was my mother too suffered from Alzheimer's, and I went through that process, and I had the opportunity again to play with someone who was walking that path. And Trudy was one willing to, if you let her go, she was a lot of fun, even in the middle of the process. In the middle of not being as aware of what's real, she was aware of some other reality that we weren't all seeing. And that was one of the beautiful things of being with her. So, without further ado, I would like to invite Ms. D to come forward. She is a song stylist extraordinaire and friend of the family, and she will be singing a very special song for us.
Well, welcome everyone. Trudy was a Patsy Cline fan, right, Charles? But you guys were the square dancing king and queen of the East Bay. I saw you. They could dance. Oh my goodness. So don't feel shy. You can clap along with me and help us, inspire us. That's right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just a closer walk with thee. Granted, Jesus is my plea. Daily walking close to thee. Oh, let it be, dear Lord, let it be. Well, I am weak, but thou art strong. Jesus, keep me from all wrong. I'll be satisfied as long as I walk, dear Lord, close to thee. Now you can sing with me, just a closer walk. You say, just a closer walk with thee, 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 just a closer walk with thee. I'll be satisfied as long as I walk, dear Lord, close to thee. I can see you're dancing. I can see you're dancing.
So it is my honor and opportunity to bring up some folks to say a few words about Trudy. Gloria and George Gates knew Trudy for over 60 years. That Gloria was her best friend and like a sister. They raised 5 beautiful children and celebrated being Filipina and fabulous together wherever they went. That's what I'm told. They were so intertwined in each other's lives that John calls them Auntie Glow and Uncle George. So Auntie Glow and Uncle George, come on up.
I'm only here for decoration.
So I'm Gloria Gates. I experienced a deep loss when Gertrude Grace Chastain passed away in August. Trudy was my best friend, and I was closer to her than to my own sisters. We first met in 1964 in an evening sewing class at Contra Costa College, which means we have known each other for almost 60 years. We were both young moms at the time, and I had just had my youngest son, Scott, who was just 3 months old, and I had 2 other children, Stephen, who was 3.5, and Nikki, who was 1.5. And Trudy had her 2 boys. Michael was 2, and John was 1. It was a godsend for me to meet Trudy. I think we both instantly knew that we would become lifelong friends. We would meet for lunch with our kids, and we'd take the kids to the park. We would leave them with our husbands on weekends and go shopping at thrift stores. We were always looking for bargains. Trudy introduced me to the dumps, and we had a ball going to the dumps and finding used furniture that we could refinish and use. We traded recipes and babysat for each other. She taught me a lot about planning meals and a lot about nutrition. It was wonderful having a best friend. We laughed a lot and we shared a lot. She was my confidant and I was hers. She was Quaker and I was Catholic, and we shared things about our religion and our own spirituality. But the best part of our friendship was that we were both Filipino, and we shared that bond, and we both loved Filipino food. So my family eventually moved to Newark, and the Chastains remained in the Richmond area. Our kids grew up and went to high school. We got really busy with our own lives and our own families. I had gone back to school for my degree and began teaching. And Trudy and I went for periods of time without talking, but with one phone call, we'd always pick up where we left off. We knew we were best friends, even though the miles separated us. In 1980, tragedy struck my family, and our oldest son, Stephen, just 19, was murdered at a concert in Oakland. Trudy and Chuck were there for us immediately, consoling us and helping us through this most difficult time. Trudy was with me 20 years later when my youngest son, Scott, was diagnosed with cancer, and she was such a big support to Scott during his illness and to my family as well. She gave the eulogy for Scott's funeral. 13 years later, my daughter Nikki died, and Trudy and Chuck were right there again, offering their love and support. Trudy really loved my kids. She was my family. So who is your family? It might not even be the people you are related to by blood. Trudy was my best friend and like a blood sister to me. She was a constant in my life, and I will never forget her. As you all know, Trudy was a very spiritual person, and I would like to now do a reading from the book of Proverbs, chapter 31, in her honor. When one finds a worthy wife, her value is beyond pearls. Her husband has an unfailing prize. She brings him good all the days of her life. She rises while it is still night and distributes food to her household. She reaches out her hands to the poor and extends her arms to the needy. Her lamp does not go out at night. She is clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs at the days to come. She opens her mouth in wisdom, and on her tongue is kind counsel. Her children rise up and extol her. Her husband, too, praises her. Many are the women of proven worth, but Trudy has excelled them all. Charm is deceptive and beauty fleeing. The woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her a reward for her labors, and let her works praise her. This is the reading of the Lord. Praise be to God.
Thank you so much, Gloria. And now, John and Chuck want you to know that our next speaker, Dr. Fumi Suzuki, is one whom they could not have done all of this without. John called her repeatedly about everything, and being on the other end of some of John's phone calls, I'm sure it was about everything. Whether it had anything to do with what Fumi thought it should be having something to do with. But she always picked up. She was always there. Didn't matter that she was dealing with tons of patients and COVID and all of those things happening and exhausting herself in her life. Always, John says, it was like having a big sister to keep him from freaking out and going mental. And she made sure, like her brother, Masao, Susan, Jeannie, and May did, to visit Trudy frequently, always bringing food and love. And what is there besides food and love? Dr. Fumi Suzuki?
Good morning, everyone. Please excuse me, because since my aunt died, unfortunately, I had a fall and I've had a slight brain injury. I'm lucky to be recovering from it and lucky that I didn't injure myself worse. From what I hear from family stories, Aunt Trudy knew me from almost the day I was born. She was there living with my parents in San Francisco almost 67 years ago as a teen. And when my mother came home from the hospital, she helped my mother take care of me and my older brother. I remember going to their wedding and that I got a new pink coat with little cake buttons on it to go to their wedding. I don't remember anything else from their wedding. When I moved back to the Bay Area, having been gone for 25 years, almost 20 years ago, with most of my belongings left in Montana, it was Trudy that went through her whole house, having many duplicate housewares, gave me pots, pans, dishes, glasses, and everything for my new apartment and my children. I will always look at blue willow plates and think of Aunt Trudy. And if I find one in any place, I will try to get it for Aunt Trudy. As I've gotten older, I've realized how much trauma my mother and her siblings lived through in barely surviving World War II in the Philippines. Trudy, being the youngest, may not have remembered much, but she had her share of trauma from that time and the courage and resilience to live with all of that through all these years. She loved everyone, and everyone loved her. I would like to read a message from my children, my son Sequoia, my daughter Maya, who are in Southern California, their children, and my son-in-law. They say, "We love Trudy for her stories, her unconditional love and acceptance, her jokes and humor, her explosive laughter, her enveloping hugs, her undeniable warmth she brought in a room. She was an incredibly positive presence for our family, and she will be missed at every family gathering now and in the future." And Trudy was unwavering in her love and commitment to her family. She accepted that people could be complicated, but she was always willing to lend a hand. When we moved back to California, Aunt Trudy brought over bags and bags of home goods to help us settle into our new apartment. She cared for others as part of her nature and was constantly asking us if we wanted this or that, or we wanted her to pick up something or come over, or how could she help, and have you eaten? I added that. Being a good Filipina. She babysat us as kids, took us shopping for school clothes, groceries, and drove us to appointments, and told us story after story. Her role as a family historian was invaluable, and it is on all of us to tell the stories she told to each other so that we can remember the people who shaped us as part of Trudy's legacy. I must say, with my busy life and being out of the area, I have missed the lives of many cousins who are here. And if you, during our break after this, come up and talk to me about that, I'd love to hear about your lives. Because if Trudy was anything, she was about family. And we know it extended far beyond our many, many cousins and people living all over the country and the Philippines. And it extended to even the people she met in the grocery store, as my daughter would say. So thank you for this opportunity, Uncle Chuck and Cousin John. And it was my privilege to be there when you needed me. I'm sorry I couldn't come to the beautiful backyard more often. Aunt Trudy will be very missed. Thank you.
Who hasn't been in Trudy's presence when she tried to give you a bag of something to take home? Thank you, Fumi. So, our next speaker was like a daughter to Trudy. She would stay overnight for several years while her mom worked, her mom being Charles' sister, Marjorie. She worked graveyard as a forklift driver, one of the first women to do so for Colgate-Palmolive. And having met Diane just a few moments ago, I know that her mother had to deal with a lot in those days, being the only woman doing her job. Indeed. So Diane and Johnny were thick as thieves. That's what he says. She says he used to make her do a lot of stuff. So I don't know. And congratulations to you as well. Diane has just become a grandma. So Diane Papano? Papano. Okay, please come forward.
Hi, I'm Diane. I'm going to open my Samsung notes. It was really beautiful hearing all the things about Aunt Trudy. A lot of those same things I'm going to mention. Let's get to the top of the page. Today I wanted to share a few memories with you about my Aunt Trudy and what she meant to me and how I saw her to be in the world. I didn't think I was going to cry this soon. Aunt Trudy took care of me for most of my early childhood. I remember being with Aunt Trudy and Uncle Charles and their sons, Johnny and Michael, for quite a large bit of my early years, and I was very lucky. Aunt Trudy was really like having another mom. At their home in El Sobrani was my home away from home, my favorite home, to be honest. I remember mornings in the kitchen. Aunt Trudy would be making breakfast, her classical music playing in the background, oatmeal on the stove, and me talking a mile a minute. I absolutely adored my aunt, and I knew she adored me. I could always make her laugh, and we all know what a wonderful sound that laughter was. She laughed especially hard when she was laughing at her own jokes. And I think I may have gotten that from her. Aunt Trudy was such a kind and funny lady, and a resourceful lady as well. She had many ways of expressing her love and her joy. She had room in her heart for everyone she knew. She was very compassionate and cared deeply about people. People that she had met, people she was about to meet. There wasn't a store clerk in the world or a crowd that she didn't strike up a conversation with, and she really cared about what people were saying. Sharing her time and her humor, that was one expression of love. Aunt Trudy always made such good food, and she loved to feed everyone. Her fried chicken was one of my all-time favorites. Wherever we were going, she would always spend the morning in the kitchen making a full, delicious meal with all the yummy side dishes. She made sure to pack everything that we may need. She always made sure that we were taken care of, and she always brought the warmth and comforts of home with her. That was another expression of love. Growing up, the Chastain house was a place to gather for holidays, birthdays, or random days. Family meant the world to her. She would always give me the little rundown of who was coming and where they were coming from. She loves sharing stories about her siblings and her nieces and nephews, and she was so proud of each and every one of you. She would share these stories while she was teaching me how to set the table or peel a potato. Her pride in her family was another expression of love. Aunt Trudy was always there for me when I had questions about the most off-the-wall things or wanted to talk until we were both blue in the face. When she had had enough of my constant chatter, she would kindly offer me a half a stick of gum or a dime if I could just be quiet for 10 minutes. Which I never could, and that would make her laugh. Yet another expression of love. I will always see her as that young, beautiful mom, making her house a home, or the kind, funny lady talking to everyone that she came in contact with, as a loving and devoted wife to my dear uncle, and to the proud and loving mother to her sons. I know that she was many things to many people, a blessing most of all. I just know that she is watching over each and every one of us here today. And in honor of our beloved Trudy, I hope that we can each find some joy today and then go out and spread it to the world, just as she did. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane, for that beautiful reflection of Trudy. So I'd like to invite Ms. D forward, and she will be offering some music as we have the opportunity to witness Trudy in photos. So get ready.
Don't forget to add, she was quite and a beautiful, attractive woman. She was gorgeous. Especially when she was square dancing. Them that's got shall get, them that's not shall lose. So the Bible says, and that still is news. Mama may have, and Papa may have, but God as the strong gets more, while the weak ones fade. Empty pockets don't ever make the grave. Mama sure may have, Papa he sure may have, but God bless the child that's got his own, that's got his own. The bread and such, you can help yourself. No, don't you take too much. Mama may have, and your papa he may have, but God bless the child that's got his own. That's got his own. It's got his own. It's got his own. Thank you.
That was beautiful, from the music to the pictures. Thank you so much. And now it's my pleasure and opportunity to invite John and Charles to come forward. And I've known John for several years, and he's one of the most generous people I know. I've known Chuck for almost as long, and he and I relate on some very fascinating things, like electric cars and interesting things like that. We get into these strange conversations. But they are going to come forward, and John's going to share a eulogy of Trudy. So.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. I'm just blown away by the stories I'm hearing about Mom. Of course, I knew her. I knew her all my life. And she's amazing. I feel like she's here. This is my dad, Charles. Known him quite a long time, too. But you have something, Michael. I have a brother, Michael Edward Chastain. He chose to change his name. It's now Michael Elizabeth. I think he's watching this now or maybe later. He's in Texas with his partner that I know of. They haven't gotten married, but Jennifer. And she's a wonderful woman. And I'm glad that he built a life there. And I just want to acknowledge him. He's done a lot of wonderful humanitarian work. He's worked without ceasing. And my mom did a lot of good in raising him. And you have something that you want to read from Michael? Okay.
Yeah, this is emailed to me by Michael. He's in Texas. And he says, my mom was all about food. When Mom was pregnant with me, Grandma gave her Adele Davis's nutritional book, Let's Have Healthy Children. Mom followed the book's advice and ate lots of leafy greens and whole grains and yogurt, and it built me a wonderful body and brain. At age 10, I had braces on my teeth and a restricted diet to protect the teeth. The day the braces came off, Mom was right there to fix anything I wanted. I chose a peanut butter sandwich. At age 20, I was living at home while studying at UC Berkeley. I spent many afternoons and evenings on campus. When I came home, no matter how late, Mom would get out of bed.
Mom would get out of bed, go to the kitchen, make me an omelet, and visit with me. She did the same thing for me many, many, many nights. Dad had a backyard garden for decades. He liked to grow food, not flowers. That's how I remember them. Dad in the garden picking tomatoes, and Mom fixing fresh garden vegetables for dinner. From Michael Chastain, September 30th, 2023. Yeah. Do you want me to read what you wrote? Okay.
Well, that was Michael. What I would like to say for myself is, good morning, sweetheart. I hope you slept well. Maybe we can go to the beach today. And what I would like her to say is something, anything. But she can't. Not since that morning, 8 weeks ago, when she couldn't wake up and would never wake up again. Caring for Trudy in the last months of her life brought us together, closer together than we had ever been in the 62 years of our marriage. In our wedding ceremony, we vowed to love each other till death do us part. It's true that we can no longer go for walks or hold conversations or hold each other. But now I know that death cannot and will not ever part us. Thank you all for being here and for sharing your memories with Trudy. Each of your memories has let John and me have a few more minutes with her. Thank you. Thank you, John.
As you may or may not know, when my mom passed, I took reflection of the time she was ill with dementia. And I realized it was 7 years. First indication was we were driving back from Stockton to see beloved family. And she was still driving at that time. And she said, I can't get over. I can't get over. I said, well, is somebody crowding you? What's going on? She goes, I can't get over. I don't know what's wrong. And she kept repeating that until I said, get over one lane. So she got over one lane. And then I had to do the same thing repeatedly until I got her to a freeway exit. I had no idea what was going on. I didn't even think of dementia. I was like, did she have a stroke? Somebody being aggressive? My dad had fallen asleep. I had been hysterical with my mother in the car, and he's still sleeping back there. And I said, wake up! He's like, what? What's happening? I said, your wife's having an episode. What kind of an episode? I don't know. Just put her on the other side so I can drive. So I got in, but I took big note of that. And I took big note of other things. And that was 7 years ago. And in those 7 years, I learned a lot. I learned that I have friends like Robin and Gil, and family like Gloria and George and all the Stockton family. Anna and Lou are now back in California. Just wonderful, wonderful, amazing people that would just listen. Karen and I, my girlfriend from high school, is now married to a beautiful husband, Mike. They listen constantly. Her mom went through the same thing. And if you ever want a road to grow you, this will grow you. And if you ever need somebody to talk to, just call anyone you consider a friend or a family member and talk to them. You don't even know what, you don't have to know what you need to say. Just start talking. There was a whole life. That was when she was 75. My mom chose a traditional pathway with my dad. They were married in 1961. And he went to work. She was also at UC Berkeley. She stopped going to school and put him through because it was a traditional role that they followed. And she had 2 beautiful babies and met Auntie Glow. And Michael came first in 62. Then I came in 63. Mom said, you came 2 weeks early and you were in a hurry ever since, which is true. We used to go for outings on Sundays. And I would they're like, oh my God. My brother was like, whatever, I'm reading a book. And I was like, can we get going? And they're like, it's 9:30 in the morning. Marine World doesn't open until noon. So, but they indulged us, and they indulged us in our intellectual pursuits. I remember going with my mom, and we would take my brother to a special math class, and we would sit across the street in the El Patel Shopping Center and eat tapioca while my brother went to, it was just like math class for geniuses. I don't know how she found it, but she did. And she spent so much time getting him advanced and accelerated. I kind of got swept up. They're like, well, you might as well do the same thing. It's like, oh my God. Genius, no. Gay, yes. It's like, leave me alone. But my brother, he's not here with us today. He couldn't be here, but I'm going to brag on him because when we got done with El Cerrito High, he had enrolled in an advanced class, and that was at UC Berkeley. And when he graduated in 1980, he had finished 1/2 of a double major at UC Berkeley. It took him only 2 more years to finish that double major. That's how amazing he was and is. And that was largely due to their devotion to their kids, their devotion to their kids' education. They moved when my dad switched jobs, and they chose to be close to El Cerrito High, where we would thrive, and we would get the educations, mainly that my brother needed, but I got a really good one, and I met some wonderful lifelong family friends, Karen and Mike. And the thing was, I didn't realize that my mom was a teacher. She was teaching me all the time. And I learned here as a practitioner that Reverend Eloise told me, she said, we're always demonstrating. Whatever we're doing, everybody's watching, whether they're conscious or not. So as we were sharing about Mom and sharing about her love, her gifts of furniture, her gifts of food, that's what I did with her. I was her little sidekick. My brother was like, I'm a math genius, leave me alone. So it's like, well, I might as well hang out with her. Her dad's at work. And we would end up at hospitals. We would end up, sometimes when my cousins passed in Stockton, we'd end up at think it's Chapel of the Palms, planning a memorial service. She adopted, I don't know, about 6 elderly women in our neighborhood, and we'd bring them groceries. And she'd pick me up from high school and I'd say, "What are we doing today?" She'd be like, "We're gonna go get groceries for Francis." I'm like, "Oh, yay." Love to do that. Thanks, Mom. She had this other side, though. She would like to go to musicals and shows, and my dad would be in the car and he'd be like, "How much did this cost? When is it over? Why are we going? Didn't he have a birthday last year?" He was very practical. So Mom quickly found out that she could say, "Hey, Charles, I'm gonna take John to a show. Do you mind if you know?" And he's like, "No, not at all. Go, leave, bye. What are you gonna do?" "I'm gonna fix the roof." "Oh, thank God, leave." So off we'd go for the fun. But when I got out of college, I was a dramatic art major. And I thought, oh my God, I graduated from UC Berkeley like my brother. My brother was headhunted. Before he got out of UC Berkeley, they were looking for him. And they spent thousands and thousands of dollars to get him this amazing job where he made a whole bunch of money. And I thought, well, okay, my turn. And I get out of school, there's nobody headhunting me at all. So I go to a show, and they said, "We're gonna pay you." I didn't ask how much. The end of the run, I had sung in the show, and I had a part in the show, and they said, "Here's your check." Ripped open the envelope, it said $50. I said, holy. My mom said, "Don't worry, something will come along." So I'm at home, I wake up, it's a call from PG&E, and because I knew someone in college, her mom worked in finance, I got an interview over there. My mom woke me up, she said, "You gotta go for the interview." Ran over to Bart, got on Bart, went to PG&E. And I'm sitting in this office, and the woman said, "You graduated from UC Berkeley?" I said, "Yes." And she said, "Well, and I said, "But it was a dramatic art major." And she said, "That's okay." And then she said something else. I said, "But I was a dramatic art major." She said, "Well, this is the death benefits administration position, and you're going to be filling in for a long-term temp." And I said, "Yes, but I was a dramatic arts major." She stopped, she put her pen down. She said, "Do you want the job or not?" Stop telling me that. She said to me, she said, "We want somebody who did 4 years of Cal. We don't care if you did basket weaving, photography. It just shows that you will accomplish this task." So I said, okay. So I get in there, and I'm still living at home, and it paid really well, which I was very excited about, but it was the Death Benefits Administration desk, the only one I was there 2.5 years. I processed approximately 7,000 deaths, and I was young, and I was scared, and they sent me photos you never, ever, ever want to see. And they sent me forms, and they sent me phone calls from people who said, "If you don't attach the insurance today, we can't bury my mother. And her only daughter is here from Peoria." I didn't even know where Peoria was. So I come home, and Mom's there, and she's sitting there. "How did it go, honey?" Ugh. She was my angel. She was my teacher. She had showed me what it was like to sit at my grandmother's side while she was passing, at my cousin's side, at various people's memorials and funerals. And she had taught me, by just doing what she did, to face it and to be calm. Her middle name is actually Gertrude Grace. My mom embodied grace, and she was grace. And so day after day I would get up, and day after day she would say, "Carry on." And she would tell me, this is one of the secrets that she gave me as a wonderful teacher of love. She always said, inside of each of you, inside of you, John, is a wise person who knows what to do. I didn't know she told my brother the same thing, but it worked. Because instead of looking out, I looked in. And I started looking at my mother in a different way. She'd get a phone call. So-and-so had a tragic accident. Okay, and she'd get off the phone and she'd cry or whatever, but somewhere along the road she would sit. She'd go out to the garden and she would sit. And then all of a sudden she would get, come on, we're going. This whole plan had come into my mother from God. She used to say God was out, and I think it was because my dad was always out there. One time she said to me, I wish I were a rose bush. He spends more time with them than he does, which wasn't true, but he was always out there. He was her gardener. And that's where she found her answers. That's where she got in touch with her love. And that's where her love of nature, her love of food. My dad used to grow amazing vegetables. I don't know what he did to the green beans, but there was always about 50 pounds a year. What's for dinner? Green beans. Yay. But she helped me. I had a mother call me. And the mother had just, a few years into being a grandmother, and I didn't know what was happening. And she said, good Lord, you're John Chastain? I said, yeah. And she said, I need to talk to you. I said, okay. And she told me her daughter's name. And she said, can I talk to you? And I said, of course, I'm right here. What? And she started crying, and she said, my daughter took a tube and stuck it from the back of her car into the car, and now she's gone. She was sobbing, and I just listened. And I said to myself, what would Trudy do? What would my mom do? What would she say? And I did not say much at all. I just listened. But she said there were kids. So I said to her, tell me about the grandkids. And then she changed. She stopped crying so hard. And she told me their names. This was 30 years ago, so I don't remember names. But it was the kids. The kids are still alive. The kids still need grandma. And the kids are from her daughter. And I said, well, that's something. And she said, you're right, it is something. I said, yeah. And I used to tell the people that would call, I would say, call again. Call anytime. Well, don't you have work to do? I said, yeah, this is my work. This is my work that my mother trained me for. This is my work that my mother taught me carefully how to do. This is my work. And I can't remember who, somebody said master teacher. But yeah, my mom was a master teacher. She was a teacher of the heart. And she prepared me not only to take care of other people, not only to help other people, but to help her. And when she passed, I got this book on grief. It was very helpful, but it was for adult children whose parents had passed. And it said, basically in the book, it was like, okay, here's the two things that you adult children have to deal with. And I said, okay, here we go. Pile it on. And the first one was that you didn't do enough, that you weren't there for them, that you, I don't know, were a freak or whatever. And I was like, oh. And I talked to some very close friends, and I said, there's nothing more I could have done for her. Nothing. Or my dad. My dad was truly inspiring because I would sit there and she'd be like, I need this. And I was like, well, so do I. And he would be like, what do you need, sweetheart? And I was like, thank God. She would call and call and call and call his name. And he never failed to answer. Sometimes it'd be from the kitchen. Yeah, what do you want, Trudy? But he would answer. So did I do enough? Yes. The second thing was, do I have any unfinished business with my mother? And this was really profound for me, and I shared this with Reverend Joan. Not anything. My mom, if she was having a bad day, she'd tell me all about it in the car after school, and I couldn't get out unless I wanted to get hurt. But she didn't hide who she was, what she was feeling, if it was a bad feeling, if it was a good feeling. And I couldn't get away with anything. She'd say, "What's that face? Why are you mad at me? What's going on?" And I'm like, "The TV's on." And she's like, "Not now." She would make me talk to her. And she would make me iron it out. And she wouldn't make me love her, but I just loved her because she cared. And she cared about everybody. And so I just feel like with this soul and this life and this beautiful soul that we call Trudy, it's complete. And I was talking to Joan, and I said, I feel like it's such a blessing. And a few people have called me and have said, "Oh, I wasn't there when she had dementia." I was like, "Well, it was COVID, and I wouldn't let anybody through the gates. I was the piranha." And the other thing is at the very end, last couple of years, somebody would leave and she wouldn't even know they'd been there. So it just got to be too much. But the 75 years when she was present, I just told a few people, I said, "My mom would not want you to feel anything but love that you knew her, and anything else is a waste of time." Because she just loved people. She loved Diane, she loved my dad, she loved my aunt and uncle, Richard and Janet. She just loved people. And I love her so much, and I feel like one of the greatest gifts I've had was her and my dad and my brother. I don't need gold, I don't need whatever, but I do need family, and I do love her, and I hope that all of you will spread some love and kindness in honor of my mother, Trudy Chastain. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Michael, for that insight into the family and into the heart. Thank you so much. And so now we're going to have an opportunity for some potential sharing from the rest of the crew. I'm going to invite Reverend Joan Stedman forward. She is the former head of this place and the current senior minister at Agape Bay Area, and she's going to lead this portion.
Thank you, Reverend Gill. I was looking at the clock. Good afternoon, everybody. Is it morning or afternoon? So, whenever I am speaking at a memorial, I always ask the person who's passed, because I know there's still a connection. I always say, "What do you want me to say?" Sometimes I don't get anything. This time it was loud and clear. Loud and clear. Tell John he did the best. Tell John that he was perfect. Tell John. And so I got that so clearly, and actually it was different words, but that I'm not remembering right now, but that was what she said, Just let him know. And I know it's something you worked through. So yeah, John. And the truth of it is that you do embody all that Trudy is. Because I say is because she still is. You do embody the love. You do embody the generosity. you do embody the fun, the joy, because it's so much fun to be with you. It was so much fun to be with Trudy. So I'm just going to tell you a couple of little things and then invite some of you to come up and share as well. So John set up a couple of practitioner sessions for me with Trudy. Do you remember that, John? As I sit reflecting upon it, it's like, did Trudy really want those sessions, or did John want her to have those sessions? Because honestly, sitting with her, it didn't seem like there was a whole lot to work out. It was such a joy to sit with her and just pray with her. And so there was that. And then I didn't think I was going to share this because it felt a little awkward, but I'm going to share it because it shows one time at least when Trudy was very, very patient. So remember, John, during COVID, when you and Trudy came to my place and you brought food, they brought food, and I don't know if I was recovering from something or what was going on, or you just was feeling generous that day, but they came and they were going to leave, and they were still out in the front, with the truck. And so all of a sudden, Trudy has to go to the bathroom really badly. Now, I live in a huge condominium complex. My place was a bit of a walk from there. So I said, well, up here in the front, there's a bathroom. And so, but I went and it was closed. It was locked because it was COVID. So we finally did make it to my place, and she made it to my place. But I thought she was so patient during that. She didn't complain. She didn't say, I really got to go. I knew she really did, But she was patient. And that's always my impression of Trudy. My impression of Trudy is so much joy, so much fun, so much love. When she smiled, y'all know that smile, it just radiated. Such a beautiful, beautiful soul. And I guess the last thing I want to say, because I don't want to take too much time, is as I was talking with Robin and Gil yesterday, we were talking about how John is such a reflection of Trudy and of Chuck too, of all that they have given you. And I said, do you remember this? I said, yeah, that old saying, the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. And Gil says, you might not want to use the word fruit. So we had a good laugh about that. Well, the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. All right, so I'm not going to say anything else except I have to say as a minister, that death does not separate us from those that we love. That the way I always image it and imagine it in my heart is that we are always at one in the heart of God with our loved ones, with our family, so that we're always one. And we're always in that place of connection with our loved ones, and we still can connect in whatever way, You might not think you're doing it, but I just know that on the invisible side of life, we're all one. We're all one. Okay, so now it's time for you to come up and share. I'm going to ask you if you want to come up and share, please do, and please come up to this mic. And please state your name, and then just share for 2 or 3 minutes. Please don't go over 3 minutes. And if you want to share, I invite you to come up to the front, be in the front, so we don't have to have a long pause between sharings, okay? So who would like to begin? I know it's daunting to share after everybody has said so many beautiful things. Hold on, use this one because I don't.
This is in honor of Trudy. Those of you who knew her, whenever she traveled to our house, she always took a lot of things with her. Took her a while to get out of the van to come in. And whenever she left, it always took her quite a while to leave, to gather up her things. And I always noticed that Trudy had everything she ever wanted or what anybody else wanted in her purse. And I used to kind of challenge her once in a while for asking something out of the ordinary. Trudy, do you have one of these? and she'd reach into her purse, and there it would be. So today, in honor of Trudy, we packed a purse. Filipino crackers. Pencil, a pen, a little medication, Band-Aids, paperclip, safety pin, nail clipper, and tissue, cough drops, and a notepad, of course, paper towel, tongue depressor. Oh no, that's a fingernail. And the interesting thing on our way here, my wife Gloria needed to use this, so we could reach in, and there it was. And I swear it was Trudy helping her because she had a hangnail. Some socks. And that's it. So this is for you, Trudy, and thank you for being you. We love you.
I just want to say I'm Lulina Miles. I'm one of Trudy's neighbors, and I just want to say that it's such an honor to be here. She and her family really welcomed me when I moved into the neighborhood in 2009, and she and her family all made me feel like just very accepted as I brought my son into the world, and I was like having family in the neighborhood, and their family, their home was so warm, and there was always wisdom like laying around on the tables, poetry, and just like spiritual writings and things that were very uplifting and deep, and I could just feel like the wisdom, in the house, and the good food and the love and the joy, and it's just such an honor to be a part and to be welcomed there, and I want to say thank you for having me here today. And Trudy, I just want to send you some love, and so glad that you're being honored in this beautiful way.
Hello, I'm Masao Suzuki. I'm Aunt Trudy's nephew to Uncle Charles, cousin to John and Michael, brother to Fumi Suzuki, who spoke earlier. And of course, I see a lot of relatives. I don't want to start naming them because, well, actually, I don't know a lot of their names, but, it's going up here. I just looking around, and I think I might be the first person here who actually met Aunt Trudy, because I met her before John and Michael was born. I assume before, I know before Charles. I went to their wedding and so forth. And there's a story about during the time I met her. I was a baby, and I was living with my parents, and Aunt Trudy was living there too, and she was a teenager. And one of the things she did was to babysit me. And something happened on her watch. She didn't do it, but a bookcase evidently fell on me as a baby. And the worst thing possible happened right after that, is there was just utter silence, right? So whenever there's been an accident, that silence can be the worst thing because you're not sure if what it was. But anyway, within a few moments, I did start crying, and I know for Aunt Trudy and my mom, that was a big relief. And I think I know from my mom's side, I think the question came up of there's sort of two views about the repercussions of it. One is that anything mentally, spiritually, emotionally problematic about me, maybe you could blame the bookcase. Or the other view is that, well, that's what any sense that you find in me, that bookcase knocked it into me. So,
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello. My name is Margaret Belton, and I met Trudy and the family, basically, at a Patsy Cline show because she was such a lover of music, and she did love Patsy Cline. And Misty, you did a beautiful job at Closer Walk with Thee, and it was so great to open up the day with that and her honoring. But I just remember that day, that night, I looked down, and I just remember seeing John's rainbow fan just ecstatically, just like waving and smiling at me, and all three of you were just giving me love. And I remember on break, in between the sets, I was like, I don't know who those three are, but they are giving me life, and sometimes I tell people as a performer, the most wonderful thing is the love you get from the audience, or even one person, and the three of you were just like, I'll never forget that show, and it's literally one of my favorite shows because of your wafting rainbow fan, and the three of you, all three of you smiling and beaming. You can tell you just hold so much love in your family, and hearing all these stories about Trudy is, it's just so beautiful to hear, and the legacy she's passed on. And like everyone said, just the biggest honor we can do is carrying that on. And Johnny Bear, I mean, last night we was talking. I said I didn't know if I could be here today, and he said, "Well, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be." And then I said, "Yeah, it's true, it is." And then he follows it by, "Do you need any food? Do you want me to bring you over any food?" And I was like, "Honey, you're putting on a memorial for your mother. You don't need to bring me food. I need to bring you food." And so we kind of had a food off. And it's just an honor to be here, and it's an honor you asked me to be here. And I just love your family so much. And the last time I saw Trudy, John had me come over. During the pandemic, I was doing these rollergrams, and I'm also a roller skater, and I like to dress in drag, another thing we have, fallen fruit, or whatever we call ourselves. He wanted to bring Trudy and just both of you some joy, and he said, "Can you come surprise my mom and my parents, and just come by and do one of those rollergrams, whoever you want." I think I did Linda Ronstadt, it was going to be Dolly, but it was Linda that day, because I was making my rounds as Linda that day, and he's like, "Oh yeah, she loves Linda Ronstadt." So I came, and I did It's So Easy to Fall in Love, and she got out of her chair and was ecstatically dancing. And I saw the rock and roll in her. I saw the just party girl, and I was like, that woman she beams life and love, and she lived. And you know, some people you look at and you're like, you are doing this life with purpose, and she did that. And I didn't know her very well, and it's just an honor to have been in her presence and be here. So, and I just want to end it by something, bringing it back full circle, is that I wanted to sing a Patsy song too, to continue the Patsy love in the room. And I thought this one was really appropriate. Life is like a mountain railroad with an engineer who's brave. We must make this run successful, from the cradle to the grave. Watch the curves, the hills and tunnels. Never falter, never fail. Keep your hands upon the throttle and your eyes upon the rail. Blessed Savior, those who guide us till we reach that blissful shore where the angels wait to join us in that great forevermore. Blessed Savior, those who guide us till we reach that blissful shore where the angels wait to join us in that great forevermore. Thank you. Thank you, Trudy.
Thank you so much. How beautiful, how perfect. I believe you were going to come up. Yes.
I almost didn't want to come up after that nice song. But I wanted to, my name's John Eder, I'm from Oregon. I met Trudy in high school. We went to a Quaker high school on a farm, and nothing has been mentioned about that. One of the things that Trudy did was raise a litter of pigs. And she had some other farming experiences too. But we traveled back and forth on the train and the bus together. We went to reunions together, and I would visit her when I came down to the Bay Area. She once said that I was kind of like a big brother to her, even though I'm a little bit younger. And so I just love the connection, and I won't say anything more because so much good has been said about her, but I just wanted to share her high school experience and that you should know that she got dirty with some pigs.
Is there anyone else? Are you coming up? Oh, a couple of people, yes, come forth. While they're coming up, I remember exactly the words, Trudy. I think she's knocking on my head now, saying the exact words were, tell him he's a good son.
It's a little nerve-wracking standing in front of people, but I couldn't help but remember the most outstanding thing that stood in my mind when I would see Trudy is, I guess it was about 2015 or so, I decided to try something completely different in my life, and that was square dancing. I knew nothing about it, and all I knew is it advertised that it's right in Alameda, right where you live, go there. And I was used to square dancing and Zydeco dancing and everything but square dancing, and I was very nervous about it. And I knew you had to kind of think a lot more, and I was a little worried about that and take directions and so forth. So when I walked in, I was very nervous, and I saw a group right in a square already, and Trudy came running over to me, and she said, take my husband, take my husband. And I go, what? Is this a square dance club or a wife swapping club or what is going on? And that was just enough to get me like right in the mood. It was so generous of her, because in the venues that I'd been to with ballroom dancing and stuff, it's a different dynamic where every woman for herself, you've got to have a partner, you know, and you don't want to be a wallflower, and she just made it so easy. And thank you for being my first square dance partner, and Chuck, and for your wife's generosity. And I'll never forget that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Bonnie Sita. Kisses to you too, and Chuck. And I wasn't going to come up and speak because I felt like I didn't spend enough time with Trudy like you guys did, but John said not to do that, so I'm not going to do that. And I'm just going to speak about the good times I had with her. And I remember going to fireworks and all the food she would bring, how I would laugh. She just made me laugh. And I didn't even really know her that well. I just knew her as John's mom. But every time, it was so much fun going anywhere with Trudy. And John was speaking about taking care of her with her dementia, and I took care of my mom with dementia for 3 years. And I know that it changes your relationship when you take care of your parent. And I felt it was an honor to take care of my mom in her last 3 years, and I know John felt the same way about Trudy. And I wish the moms could have met, because I think they would have liked each other, and I think that's why we can connect, because we were raised by feisty women who never took no for an answer and just did their thing. And now I know they are meeting. Yes, and they're together, and they're looking down on us with love. And so blessings to everybody for coming, and we're so lucky that we knew Trudy, and we still know her, and she's still in our hearts.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone who shared, and I encourage you when we go over for the repast to keep sharing stories. That's a wonderful way to grieve. It's a wonderful way to just remember and to support each other. And the other thing I want to say, one thing about Trudy, too, is she was comfortable in her own skin. And I didn't hear anybody say that exactly, but she was comfortable in her own skin. So, yeah. So the other thing I want to say, and then I'm going to hand it back to Gil. You know, we ministers, we get a mic in front of us, and we just can't stop. Is to be sure, those of you who are friends of the family and so forth, to continue to support the family. Lots of times after the first couple of weeks, we forget, because we move on with our lives. And every holiday, every birthday, every occasion, it's a challenge. And so my heart's with you. And I'm here to support you. And I know we all are. Thank you. Reverend Gil.
And I think, Ms. D, we're looking for you again. I see you way in the back. So Ms. D is going to come forward, and we're going to share one of Trudy's favorite songs. Is that right? Okay. And we'll conclude with a little thing after that. And just so you all know, let's just go with the song, and we'll go from there.
I hope I make it through this song. I took a cough drop, and I started coughing. So anyway, go figure. But we're going to do this, and I want everybody to join in. We're going to make it through this song. 1, 2.
assume we're all on our feet because we love Trudy and we felt her love, right? So while we're on our feet, what we want to do is just send her off with all of our love and give her this standing ovation. Are you ready?
So we take this standing ovation, this energetic of love for Trudy, we take this standing ovation into the world, out into the world, knowing that as we walk with Trudy, we shine that light, we allow our light to glow and to flourish and to shine all over the world. And we bless Trudy as she soars to her next expression of being, knowing that she is anchoring love and peace and gratitude on this planet, and that truly, 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 our lives will never be the same. And so we just bless her and send her love and allow it to be. And so it is.
So if you would all just take a seat for a moment, we're going to allow John and Chuck to head out. So you all know that after this, there will be a great reception in on the other side in the social hall. We have food, which has been catered by Market Hall, one of the local great food places here in town. And Reverend Joan and Reverend Jerry will be over there, and they'll do a blessing for the food. There's been a very important piece that I have to announce, and that is you have to let the older people go first. I don't know how you're going to work that out, but be sure that you give a chance for that. And then we're going to also dismiss folks by the rows. There'll be a couple people to help with that. So thank you so much, and continue sharing the love.